Episode 3 of the Rookie Season 4 starts with Miles dropping by Seth's place to check on him. Miles is hoping to make amends and be there for Seth. However, the more he tries to use his experience, the angrier the latter gets. Miles calls him out for being self-absorbed and acting like a victim. In his true nature, Seth kicks him out. In the meantime, Tim is starting to grow antsy with Chen taking longer to unpack. She promises him that she will figure it out soon. At the station, Nolan brings in a man, Ezra, he found breaking into a rec center. Ezra explains that he was merely seeking a place to sleep and shares a sob story. Nolan promises to get Ezra some food and explains that he will most likely be released with a citation in a couple of hours. Lopez worries that she failed Wesley's test by forgetting it was their anniversary. As they talk, Nyla gets a hit after Nolan's arrest. It turns out that Ezra's fingerprints are linked to a triple homicide in Oregon from 3 years ago. Back then, a couple were murdered in their home, and the police believe their daughter, Samantha, was dragged and killed in the woods. They never found Samantha's body but managed to find a fingerprint at the scene. Unfortunately, the fingerprint was not in their system until Nolan ran Ezra's prints. Nyla, Lopez, and Wesley decide to keep Ezra in the dark while they investigate further. They send in Nolan to interrogate Ezra about the numerous credit cards they found on him. Once again, Ezra brings up a sob story of his life. He claims that he mostly found the credit cards and used them to buy food once in a while. Nolan acts like he is on his side, willing to give him a lenient recommendation in his case. Meanwhile, Lopez runs Ezra's name using the little information he gives Nolan. They find a hit on his latest credit card used recently at a motel. Chen and Juarez are tasked with checking out the motel, but as they walk to the room, Juarez asks Chen about her trauma. Chen is not interested in talking about the day a serial killer mentee buried her alive. In the motel room, they find a traumatized, brainwashed Samantha. She believes that Ezra will be back for her and doesn't feel safe. After Chen informs her that Ezra is in custody, she calms down a bit. They escort her to the hospital, and they realize that Ezra lied about her parents being alive. This is what he used to keep her in line, among other things. At the station, Nyla and Lopez quickly brief Nolan and encourage him to tread carefully. Nolan goes back and casually asks about the motel. Ezra feigns ignorance, insisting that he never visited the motel, attempting to dissuade Nolan from following the lead further. At the hospital, Chen explains more about Samantha's psychological state to Juarez. After a checkup, Chen informs Samantha about the death of her parents. She tries to get more information about Ezra from the girl. It turns out Ezra believes he is Amun, a demon who commands 40 legions, including the police. Samantha also talks about the night she was kidnapped. She also mentions that Ezra has an old, black car. She believed that Ezra was planning to kill her the last time he left the motel. Part of her was relieved that her torture would finally be over. Back at the motel, Tim finds pictures Ezra drew where he depicted himself as a demon devouring a girl. He sends them to Lopez after a quick call. At the station, Ezra realizes the jig is up. He asks Nolan to bring in the big shots, aka Lopez and Nyla. Wesley joins them as the main prosecutor on the case. Nolan suggests that Nyla touch on Ezra's childhood to see if he will talk. In the meantime, he and Tim return to the rec center where he found Ezra. They find a bloody car key, and realize that Ezra has another victim. Back at the station, Ezra demands to speak to Samantha if the police want to find the new victim, Julie. As it turns out, Julie has been missing for a couple of hours and is bleeding profusely. The police believe that Ezra parked his car a few blocks from the rec center and went back to clean the scene after kidnapping Julie. They believe Julie is still in his car, and time is running out. However, they refuse to let Ezra re-traumatize Samantha again. Unfortunately, Samantha overhears Juarez and Chen talking about Ezra's demands. The mention of the red place sets her off, and she tries to kill herself. Luckily, Chen and Juarez get to her before it is too late. Elsewhere, the police continue searching for Ezra's car. Nolan finds Julie and calls in the paramedics. Thankfully, they get Julie to the hospital, and she quickly receives help. Later, Samantha asks to see Julie once she recovers. Chen commends her bravery, and Nolan thanks her for mentioning Ezra's car. If she hadn't, they wouldn't have known about Julie. Later, Chen talks to Samantha and shares her traumatic experience. She promises to help Samantha through it. Nyla drops by and informs them that Samantha's aunt is on her way from London. She also promises to be there for Samantha until she feels safe. All female cops from the stations are willing to help. In the evening, Seth drops by Juarez and Miles's apartment. He asks Miles to help him make amends and he agrees, as long as Seth never lies to him again. At the Evers house, Lopez feels a bit relieved when she realizes Wesley also forgot their anniversary. At the station, Wade offers to buy Nolan a drink after the long day they've had. At Tim's house, Chen offers to supervise as he unpacks her stuff. When they said we would get to see a familiar face this episode, I never thought we would see Seth. He doesn't need a redemption arc, and his plotline with Miles feels forced. This would have been a better trip down memory lane if we got Aaron instead. That aside, we are finally back to the formulaic structure. No big international stings. This was a refreshing episode, and the escalation of Ezra's case was interesting. The case also allowed us to see Chen's growth and how she has been dealing with her trauma. It is something that the writers have never addressed before. However, we get a glimpse of Chen's strength, and she seems to have made peace with everything that went down. It is also inspiring that she uses her experience to help Samantha.